What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got part one of our two-part Leonard Cohen Top 10 Songs reactions, years 1967 to 1979, on this one, brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Asmund. Thank you, Asmund. Part two will be next month, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to start right away telling you the music's not going to be in this video, so if you want to watch and listen along, check out the Vimeo link below, and you can see all of that. If you just want to know what I think of these songs, just stick around here. A little bit about Leonard Cohen, then we're going to jump right into this list. He was a Canadian singer-songwriter, poet, and novelist. His work explored religion, politics, isolation, depression, sexuality, loss, death, and romantic relationships. Pretty much covers all of life, right? Cohen was inducted in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He was invested as a companion of the Order of Canada, the nation's highest civilian honor. He pursued a career as a poet and novelist during the 50s and early 60s and did not begin a musical career until 1967. He was already aged 33. His first album, Songs of Leonard Cohen, 1967, was followed by three more albums of folk music: Songs from a Room in 1969, Songs of Love and Hate in 1971, and New Skin for the Old Ceremony in 1974. His 1977 record, Death of a Ladies' Man, co-written and produced by Phil Spector, was a move away from Cohen's previous minimalistic sound. In 1979, Cohen returned with the more traditional recent songs, which blended his acoustic style with jazz, East Asian, and Mediterranean influences. I want to kind of give you a background on the albums that could be involved, that Asmund could be pulling from on this top 10. The one with Spector, the 1977 Death of a Ladies' Man, has some absolutely legendary stories about Spector. I won't go into them here, but man alive, you got a little spare time, just look up that album and you will see that Phil was a little unhinged and Leonard had to deal with that. Now, we've done a little bit of Cohen on the channel if you get to look. We did Songs of Love and Hate, a full album reaction to that, and Popular Problems, which will be something that would be drawn from on the next top 10 because it's a later album, but a few song battles, song reactions. But I don't really know a lot of Leonard, and I really don't remember much of Songs of Love and Hate. It's what happens when you film these almost every single day. I remember I liked it, so these songs may not be my first listen, but they're kind of going to be like it. They're going to be my second listen if I've heard them at all. Let's jump into this top 10. We're going to start out with The Guess from Recent Songs 1979. Was based on a 13th century Persian poem and was chosen to open the album because of the enthusiastic response it evoked when Leonard played it to friends. Jennifer Warnes is on backing. I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Asmund. The Guess, really well-written song, which you would expect from Leonard, as he talks about the guests are coming. One by one they arrive. They're coming through, the open-hearted many, the broken-hearted few. And then that chorus comes in after every verse, right? That's the way it's verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Some of the verses are repeating. And no one knows where the night is going, and no one knows where the wine is flowing. So that part was interesting because I'm sure it was Jennifer Warnes. I know it was maybe only her, but offsetting harmonies, they were off a little bit, right? And then they harmonized together on, oh, I love you, I need you, I need you, I need you, I need you, oh, I need you now. And then those begin to dance. So pretty much they come as they are, and whatever it is they begin to do or whatever it is they feel, they can feel it wholeheartedly here because they're the guests. I kind of take that as the meaning of it. Had a beautiful guitar in there, some strings. The song just draws you in from the get-go. It's 6 minutes, 40 seconds. It doesn't feel like it's a nice little journey Leonard takes you on. Now we're up to the Partisan from Songs from a Room in 1969, so we're dialing it back 10 years from the previous track. The Partisan's an anti-fascist anthem about the French resistance in World War II. The song was composed in 1943 by Russian-born Anna Marley with lyrics by French resistance leader. I'm going to mess this up and I don't want to do it. So Emmanuel d'Aster de la Vidre. I know that's wrong. I'm sorry for all you people who are French because this dude may be important, and originally titled the English version of it is The Lament of the Partisan. Marley performed in other songs on the BBC's French service, through which she and her songs were an inspiration to the resistance. A number of French artists have recorded and released versions of the song since, but it's better recognized globally in its significantly, both musically and in the meaning of its lyrics, different English adaptation by Hai Zaret, best known as the lyricist of Unchained Melody. Okay. Leonard recorded his version using Zaret's adaptation. So he used the adaptation of the original. Cohen's version repopularized the song, is responsible for the common misconception that he wrote it. It has inspired many other artists to perform, record, and release versions of the song. The recording of it utilized we're only going to hear here a classic guitar, a double bass, and an accordion along with Leonard and some female voices. Leonard first learned of it from the People's Songbook as a 15-year-old boy at summer camp in 1950. Using Zard's predominantly English adaptation to record the song with the title The Partisan left Cohen dissatisfied and suggested to Johnston that French voices were needed on the track. Johnston, the producer, reportedly arranged to fly with Cohen to Paris for authenticity, according to Maurice Ratcliffe, to record a trio of female singers and an accordion player whose work was overdubbed onto the track. So even way back then, Leonard wanted it to be right. The Partisan, man, what a phenomenal song. What a powerful song, just draws you in. You know, the Partisans, basically it starts off where the Nazis are crossing the border into France in 1940. And so a bunch of the French people that didn't want to be taken up or surrender left, like they escaped to the forests and different places to fight, and they were known as the Partisans. And no one really knows how many were killed. I mean, when I was researching it, some people say 8,000 died in the forest, 25,000 killed in battle. No one knows really, right? I mean, who knows? But these people didn't give up to the Nazis. So, and that's what this is all about. When they poured across the border, I was cautioned to surrender. This I could not do. I took my gun and vanished. I've changed my name so often. I've lost my wife and children, but I have many friends, and some of them are with me. Then an old woman gives them shelter, but she ends up dead. And then there were 3 of us this morning. I'm the only one this evening, but I must go on. The frontiers are my prison. I mean, that verse just shows you the power, right? You're right there with this guy, man. Like, wow, man. There are 3 of us this morning. I'm the only one left. The loneliness and difficulty of this. And then, oh, the wind is blowing. Through the graves, the wind is blowing. Freedom soon will come. Then we'll come from the shadows. They'll come back out once France is liberated. And obviously they eventually were after a few years, though. It wasn't a quick thing. And then we get into the French thing, which I think just added so much to it. And the interpretation is basically almost a repeating or very similar verses to what we already heard in the English version. I mean, the interpretation I read was a man that hit him in the attic and then he ended up dead instead of the old woman, but whatever, like close enough. And then it ends out with that wind is blowing through the graves, the wind is blowing, freedom soon will come, then will come from the shadows. Just a powerful song. Now we're up to Joan of Arc from Songs of Love and Hate in 1971. I mean, I recognize the title. I don't know if I'll recognize it when I hear it. Released as a single, it's constructed mainly as a dialogue between Joan of Arc and the fire which is consuming her as she burns at the stake after having been found guilty of heresy in 1431. In the song, Joan says that she is, quote, tired of the war and tells how she would rather be wearing a white wedding dress. One of the charges against her was that she dressed as a man. The song was apparently inspired by Cohen's love for the German model Nico. In 1988, Leonard said of this song, I was thinking more of the sense of a destiny that human beings have and how they meet and marry their destiny. I don't want to suggest in that song that what she really wanted to be was a housewife. What I mean to say is that as lonely and as solitariness as she was, she had to meet and be embraced by her destiny. Seen from the point of view of the woman's movement, she really does stand for something stunningly original and courageous. Joan of Arc. I don't really remember this song. Like I said, we were after this album, so I mean, I've heard it once, but it's a really interesting songwriting. Interesting too, even, I mean, Leonard was such a smart guy, you know, such an intelligent man. To just think of you and like crafting a song like this is pretty interesting. I think the fire talking to her, you know, she wanted someone, she wanted to be married to someone, basically. Then fire, make your body cold because it would kill her. I'm going to give you mine to hold. Saying this, she climbed inside to be his one, to be his only bride, talking to the fire. And deep into his fiery heart, he took the dust of Joan of Arc. And high above the wedding guests, so whoever was witnessing her burning, he hung the ashes of her wedding dress. Just, I mean, wow. Female vocals in the background really add to the la 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 la, the stringed instrument, just very well arranged. That's the thing I've noticed with Leonard's stuff that I've heard. The arrangement of it's just perfect. He's got a unique voice. I don't think he's got a bad voice, but a lot of people do. He's got a unique voice, but you know, with the subject matter of his songs, you got to really focus on what he's saying because a lot of them are crafted so nicely, so elegantly. You want to hear the words, you don't want to be overwhelmed by the instrumentation. So far, the production on here has worked really well. Now, track number 7, Bird on the Wire from Songs from a Room in 1969. It is considered one of his signature songs. It was recorded in Nashville. Judy Collins was the first to release the song in 1968, followed by Joe Cocker the following year. Because remember, that's how it was back in the day, man. You write a song, others are going to get it out before you are a lot of times. In this case, 2 people did. In the 1960s, Leonard lived on the Greek island Hydra with his girlfriend Marianne Eland, the woman depicted on the back cover of Songs from a Room. She has related how she helped him out of a depression by handing him his guitar, whereupon he began composing this song, Bird on the Wire. Inspired by a bird sitting on one of Hydra's recently installed phone wires, followed by memories of wet island nights, he finished it in a Hollywood motel. He's described the song as a simple country song. In the liner notes to the 1975 compilation, The Best of Leonard Cohen, Leonard wrote this about the song. Quote, "I always begin my concert with this song. It seems to return me to my duties. It was begun in Greece and finished in a motel in Hollywood around 1969, along with everything else. Some lines were changed in Oregon. I can't seem to get it perfect. Chris Christopherson informed me that I had stolen part of the melody from another Nashville writer. He also said that he's putting the first couple of lines on his tombstone, and I'll be hurt if he doesn't." Bird on the Wire, what a beautiful song. I don't know that I've ever heard it. I've never heard Leonard's version. If I've ever heard the song, I've heard a more sped up version, but so well written, which obviously is a theme here with Leonard's stuff. But I think he's talking to a lover, and I think he's probably telling her that he's leaving, right? But that it's not her fault, but he kind of shirks responsibility too. I think it's also kind of a commentary on the stuff we face in life, and we try to get out of them, but like a bird on a wire, you know, you're free, but you're not really free because you can't ever really reach the expanses of the sky. But who knows what he exactly had in mind. But like a bird on the wire, like a drunk in a midnight choir, I've tried in my way to be free, like a worm on a hook, like a knight from some old-fashioned book. So see all these things where I'm not really free. I've saved all my ribbons for thee. And then if I have been unkind, I hope that you can just let it go by. If I have been untrue, I hope you know it was never to you. So it wasn't her fault. And then he just has these other things like a beast and a horn and a baby stillborn and a beggar and a pretty woman. He has all this stuff in there. But instrumentation, again, just right, man. Just low key and just right. We're already almost halfway done with this top 10 list. We're to number 6, The Traitor, from Recent Songs in 1979, which our first track was taken from as well. Cohen said about the song, "It's about failing or betraying some mission you were mandated to fulfill and being unable to fulfill it, and then coming to understand that the real mandate was not to fulfill it, but to stand guiltless in the predicament in which you have found yourself." Leonard, as I said before, is a bright guy, man. Some of his explanations even, I got to stop and think about him. Over 6 minutes, just like the first track was. The Traitor. A lot of similar instrumentation from the first track, The Guess, which is from the same album, same length, kind of 6 minutes long. A very deliberate delivery from Leonard. Really enjoyed it. A complicated song, the way it's written. Now the swan, it floated on the English river. Ah, the rose of high romance, it opened wide. A suntan woman yearned me through the summer, and the judges watched us from the other side. And just, I told my mother, I must leave you. Preserve my room, but do not shed a tear. Should rumor of a shabby ending reach you, it was half my fault and half the atmosphere. But the rose I sickened with the scarlet fever, and the swan I tempted with the sense of shame. She said at last I was her finest lover, and if she withered, I would be to blame. So at the end, we kind of come to the conclusion that he's in a kind of a passionless relationship, but he's going to stay in it. But then that might not even be true. It might just be he's writing this to the love and passion itself. That's kind of what I read. I don't know, but nicely done. The instrumentation, a lot of, like I said, the same instruments, a lot of almost a Spanish guitar. The strings were phenomenal. This draws you in from the start. Now we get to the top half of this list. You see it below. You Know Who I Am. We're going to do the live version from Live Songs in 1973, originally from Song from a Room in 1969. As on a lot of these wonderful guitar work, and I'll say first before we get into it, the live version, man, he sounds phenomenal. Like he sounds just like he does on the recorded versions of everything. You Know Who I Am. I think it's written to a lover telling him, look, man, we got issues, and the issues are us, like inside us. Like it's not going to change, right? So we really can't be together. But later on in the song, he basically alludes to the fact that he's going to be broken with her or without her, because he says, if you ever track me down, I will surrender there, and I will leave you with one broken man whom I will teach you to repair. You know who I am. You've stared at the sun. Well, I am the one who loves, changing from nothing to one. One of the things that's interesting here, one of the verses in here, sometimes I need you naked, sometimes I need you wild. I need you to carry my children in, and I need you to kill a child. So, I mean, is he talking about getting her to, telling her he wants her to do something horrible so she'll leave? He's talking about abortion. He's talking about he's the child, and he needs her to kill his immaturity so he can mature into being a man Who knows, man? That's part of what Leonard's great writing does for you. But that one was fantastic. Now, up to number 4, you see it below, Sisters of Mercy from Songs of Leonard Cohen in 1967. And Leonard said this: "That's the only song I wrote in one sitting. The melody I'd worked on for some time. I didn't really know what the song was. I remember that my mother had liked it. Then I was in Edmonton, which is one of our largest northern cities, and there was a snowstorm, and I found myself in a vestibule with 2 young hitchhiking women who didn't have a place to stay. I invited them back to my little hotel room, and there was a big double bed, and they went to sleep in it immediately. They were exhausted by the storm and cold. And I sat in this stuffed chair inside the window beside the Saskatchewan River. And while they were sleeping, I wrote the lyrics. And that never happened to me before, and I think it must be wonderful to be that kind of a writer. It must be wonderful." Sisters of Mercy. So he's writing about these girls. Obviously I told it at the start how he wrote it. They were waiting for me when I thought that I just couldn't go on, and they brought me their comfort, and later they brought me this song. So we don't know if they hooked up or he just meant their caring comfort. Oh, I hope you run into them, you who've been traveling so long. So he hopes that someone else can experience them, making him feel better, because they're the Sisters of Mercy. And he just kind of builds on that. At the very end, he says, "We weren't lovers like that, and besides, it would still be all right." But he says, "Don't turn on the lights. You can read their address by the moon, because they're the Sisters of Mercy." So really well done, as all of these are. Next up, we have Chelsea Hotel number 2 from New Skin for the Old Ceremony in 1974. This refers to a sexual encounter in the Chelsea Hotel, probably New York's most famous bohemian hotel. For some years, when performing this song live, Leonard would tell a story that made it clear the person about whom he was singing was Janis Joplin. Cohen would eventually come to regret his choice to make people aware that the song was about Joplin and the graphic detail in which the song describes their brief relationship. And in 1994 broadcast on the BBC, Leonard said it was, quote, "an indiscretion for which I'm very sorry. And if there was some way of apologizing to the ghost, I want to apologize now for having committed that indiscretion." It's called number 2 because there's an earlier, significantly longer version of the song, which Leonard doesn't sing often. Chelsea Hotel number 2. He starts off, "I remember you well in the Chelsea Hotel. You were talking so brave and so sweet." Then he talks about a sexual act. Then he gets to another verse, and then the chorus, "Yeah, but you got away, didn't you, babe? You just turned your back on the crowd. When you got away, I never once heard you say, I need you, I don't need you." They didn't have to mess with all that, right? There's just a brief encounter. And this part was, "I remember you well in the Chelsea Hotel. You were famous. Your heart was a legend. You told me again you preferred handsome men, but for me, you would make an exception because Janis supposedly hooked up maybe with Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, a bunch of different guys. And clenching your fist for the ones like us who are oppressed by the figures of beauty, you fixed yourself," which is probably the clenching, for protesting, but also clenching to inject heroin, which Janis did. And you fixed yourself. You said, "Well, never mind. We are ugly, but we have the music." And then he finishes off with the chorus and then a little thing at the end. It was pretty nicely done, man. I did enjoy this. Never heard this song. Quite well done and quite well written. Well, we're up to number 2 on this list of Cohen from 67 to 79. Remember, we're stopping at 79 on this list. We got Avalanche from Songs of Love and Hate in 1971. So again, I've heard this song one time, but we'll see if I remember it. The lyrics are based on a poem he had previously written. Remember, he was a writer before he became a musician. He acknowledged in a 1992 interview that his chop, his unique pattern of playing classical guitar, is behind many of his early songs, and this one features Cohen's trademark fast classical guitar pattern as the accompaniment on the recording of the song. He remarked about the original recording and the song in general. "There is something in the voice that is really wiped out. It's a disturbing voice. There is anxiety there." The great Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds recorded a version of this song for their 1984 album, From Her to Eternity. Avalanche, the instrumentation definitely adds to this, the despair. You just feel this anxiousness about it, right? I think he's having an inner monologue with himself. We supposedly have these 2 sides to us, however you want to frame that up. You used to see it in the old cartoons if you're old like me. Devil on one side, angel on the other, which one's going to win? He's having this internal monologue. That's the way I read it. And he's trying to accept the bad parts of him don't make him not good, so to speak. Because at the very end, he's like, "Do not dress in those rags for me. I know you are not poor. You don't love me quite so fiercely now when you know that you are not sure. It's your turn, beloved. It's your flesh that I wear." So, just this whole thing is just, it was pulled from a poem. And you can tell, "You who wish to conquer pain, you must learn what makes me kind. The crumbs of love that you offer me, they're the crumbs I've left behind. Your pain is no credential here. It's just a shadow shadow of my wound. Just a fantastically written and powerful song. And here we are. We're to number 1. You see it below. Suzanne from Songs of Leonard Cohen in 1967. First published as a poem in 1966. It was recorded as a song by Judy Collins in the same year, and Cohen performed it as his debut single. It was inspired by his platonic relationship with dancer Suzanne Verdal. Its lyrics describe the rituals that they enjoyed when they met. Suzanne would invite Leonard to visit her apartment by the harbor in Montreal, where she would serve him constant comment tea, and they would walk around old Montreal past the Church of Notre Dame de Bon Secours, where sailors were blessed before heading out to the sea. Introducing this song in 1968 during a performance on the BBC, Leonard said he benefited only from his own performances of Suzanne, having signed away his rights to the song itself in a legal document deceptively presented to him, which he did not read. From the 1976 back cover of Greatest Hits, he said, I wrote this in 1966. Suzanne had a room on a waterfront street in the port of Montreal. Everything happened just as it was put down. She was the wife of a man I knew. Her hospitality was immaculate. Some months later, I sang it to Judy Collins over the telephone. The publishing rights were pilfered in New York City, but it was probably appropriate that I don't own this song. Just the other day, I heard some people singing it on a ship in the Caspian Sea. All right, I don't know that I know this song, but it is Asmund's number 1 Leonard Cohen song from 1967 to 1979. Suzanne, what a beautiful tune. You know, he said it was a platonic relationship. You get the impression, you know, he took a little liberties, and the songwriter works better if they're actually lovers. But the chorus really sticks with you, man, and you want to travel with her, and you want to travel blind, and you know that she will trust you, for you've touched her perfect body with your mind. And then verse 2 is so powerful. I'm a Christian. I know Asmund, who brought the list, is a Christian, so I'm sure that's part of what plays into why he resonates with this song. Verse 2, and Jesus was a sailor when he walked upon the water, and he spent a long time watching from his lonely wooden tower, could be the cross. And when he knew for certain only drowning men could see him, he said, all men will be sailors, then until the sea shall free them. But he himself was broken long before the sky would open. Forsaken, almost human, he sank beneath your wisdom like a stone. And then at the very end, the last verse, now Suzanne takes your hand, she leads you to the river, and all these things she does for him. And then we finish up with the chorus. So that was a very powerful song. They were all pretty darn powerful. Before we get to my favorite tracks, I'm going to give you Asmund's honorable mentions. Hey, That's No Way to Say Goodbye from Songs of Leonard Cohen in 67. Famous Blue Raincoat from Songs of Love and Hate in 1971. I actually do remember that song. Who by the Fire from New Skin for the Old Ceremony in 1974. And Death of a Ladies' Man from Death of a Ladies' Man in 1977. I do know that one as well. Now we'll get to my favorite tracks. It's kind of hard, right? I didn't dislike any of these tracks, and they're all similar in the fact of kind of style to a certain extent. You know, if you like Leonard, you're going to like almost all of his songs, I think. And if you don't like him, you're not going to like any of it. So it's kind of one of those unique artists in that way. Honorable mentions are going to be Bird on the Wire, The Partisan, the number 9 song, just because I loved the lyrical power in that. And Chelsea Hotel, number 2. My faves, You Know Who I Am, that live version I listened to was so good. And then the last 2 songs here, Avalanche and Suzanne, picked there for a good reason. So thank you, Asmund, as always. As I said, remember, we're going to have the second part of this taking us up through Leonard's last album next month. So come back for that. And thanks to Asmund and all of our patrons who make this thing happen. Check out the Patreon link below if you'd like to support us in any way. We greatly appreciate it. Keeps us able to do this content on a daily basis. I will put the Patreon link in the end screen as well as that review for Songs of Love and Hate if you would like to check that one out. Until next time, guys, I will see you.